This video was inspired by yours truly's Why I Don't Like Miles Morales and Why I Love Rocky, Adam and Aisha video. What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Sodium285. I'm back and welcome back to another video essay. So, after my first Pokemon video did well, which I'm so happy it did, it's given me more justification to do more Pokemon videos on this channel, which I want to do. If you've seen the inspiration section of this video, then you've noticed that this time around I've taken one of my own previous videos as a source of inspiration for this one. The idea of me looking at some of my older videos to help with my newer ones going forward, I see as a great way of improving on the faults of some of those older videos, while also taking what did work in them. So today, I'm talking about shipping in Pokemon. Shipping exists in every single fandom of every franchise, as we are all guilty of shipping certain characters together in each of these franchises, including me. Mostly because we see so much chemistry between two characters or we get very invested in their dynamics. And the Pokemon fandom in particular has a lot of ships. Whether it's the game and manga characters like Red and Green, commonly known as Lucky Shipping, or anime characters like Ash being shipped with every one of his female companions except Bonnie, since she's too young. However, there are also many ships between characters that don't involve the former protagonist of the anime, Ash, such as rocket shipping between Team Rocket members Jesse and James, poor James, and orange shipping between Misty and Tracy, who were both Ash's traveling companions during the Orange Island saga. However, by far, at least from what I can tell amongst the Pokemon fandom, the most popular ship that doesn't involve Ash is ContestShipping, or at least one of them. The ship between May, Ash's female companion in Advanced Generation, and her main rival Drew. It's actually because of this why I often see Advanced Shipping, the ship between Ash and May, often getting the least votes regarding Ash ships, second to Negai shipping between Ash and Iris, his female companion in Black and White, or being completely disregarded as a possibility with claims of May has or even loves Drew. But if you're familiar with me and my videos on Marvel, DC, Power Rangers, etc., you know that I have some opinions that are quite controversial. Okay, very controversial. And that's no different with Pokemon, and one of them is my stance on contest shipping. I don't like it. And more importantly, I don't see it.
You say something so controversial yet so brave.
I will be completely honest with you people. I am in fact an advanced shipper. I believe Ash and May were made for each other, deserve each other, and belong together. Advanced shipping's my OTP. With that said, I am not going to be comparing contest shipping to advanced shipping because one, in my opinion, they're not the same, nor do they resemble each other. Two, I want to judge contest shipping on its own, remove my biases towards advanced shipping, and give it a fair assessment while explaining why I don't buy into contest shipping. And three, I want to tackle this in a mature way, and if I bring up other relationships to compare May and Drew's to, I'd be bringing them up because I believe they're actually similar to it, at least the majority of them. First thing I want to get out of the way, I don't hate Drew. In fact, I think he's one of the best rivals for any of Ash's traveling companions. Is he a jerk for most of the series? Absolutely. But I think with a lot of these rivals that are often jerks to the protagonists for most of the series, Drew, Gary, Paul, even Trip, we the audience are not meant to like them.
Dude, you criticize Eric Myers from Power Rangers Time Force for being unlikable when that was by design. He was meant to be unlikable at the beginning, but yet you're giving a free pass to Drew for also being intentionally unlikable? What's the difference, Captain Hypocrite?
There is a massive difference between Eric and Drew Deadpool. Eric is one of the heroes who, while can definitely have flaws, are still characters we the audience are still supposed to root for, which Eric, as a hero, failed at because they made him so unlikable and his friendship with Wes was unconvincing to me. Drew, on the other hand, is a rival, essentially an antagonist for one of our heroes, May. Antagonists, villains, rivals, maybe even some anti-heroes. We're not meant to root for them for the majority of the time. In this case, between May and Drew, who are rivals against each other, May, as one of our heroes in Pokemon Advanced Generation, is the one we're rooting for, while Drew, we're meant to be rooting against him. As a rival and even antagonist for May, Drew succeeded. Now get out of here, Deadpool. Anyway, that leads me to why I don't ship May with Drew, nor do I like the idea of them being shipped or being in a romantic relationship. They're rivals. Not only that, but Drew's her main rival. And unlike with Dawn and Zoe, where Zoe was actually friendly to Dawn and treated her like a person from the beginning, Drew was super rude to May from the moment they met, treated her as something inferior to him, and essentially bullied her. And he continued being a jerk to her for the rest of the majority of the series, often calling her an amateur.
Dawn, you and Zozo are rivals too, but it's nothing like this, that's for sure.
I'm very much against the idea of rivals or enemies being shipped together, not just in Pokemon, even in other franchises like Marvel, DC, Ninja Turtles, Percy Jackson, etc., as they can often feel quite forced, create drama, and often lead to toxic relationships. That's right, a lot of the time I've struggled to get on board a Batman-Catwoman romantic relationship or a Spider-Man Black Cat romantic relationship, as a lot of the time they're enemies and only team up out of necessity. Neither should be the endgame for me. I believe the only time I've been on board with Batman-Catwoman was in Matt Reeves' The Batman, and with Spider-Man Black Cat was in Spider-Man the Animated Series, and only because neither were portrayed as being enemies for the majority of either. And in the case of the latter, Peter then found MJ again, kind of, and Felicia found Morbius again. Otherwise, I'm not really on board with either in other cases. And don't get me started on Leo and Karai in TMNT 2012. I thought that one was a weird idea, executed even worse. And I feel May and Drew's rivalry is in the same boat. They're heated rivals that eventually became friendly rivals. I look at a lot of their scenes together throughout Advanced Generation, and they take my thoughts to these scenes of these other relationships.
Real winners can never resist competition, though that does make me wonder why you're here.
Can't you try to be polite?
Ash, I hope tomorrow's your lucky day, because luck's what you're gonna need.
You don't know what you're talking about, Gary.
You just make sure you don't get in my way.
Hold on. That's no way to talk to your tag battle partner.
Are all the trainers from the Kanto region boonies just like you?
What'd you say?
Exactly. I don't look at May and Drew and think Reed and Sue or Jason and Trini. I look at them and think Ash and his relationships with his own various main rivals, Gary, Paul, and Trip, or even Percy Jackson's relationship rivalry with Clarice LaRue. So for me, shipping May with Drew would be like shipping Ash with Trip or Percy with Clarice. In fact, sometimes, whenever I see Drew bully, annoy, verbally abuse, or criticize May, I even get vibes of Paul abusing Chimchar.
Hey Drew, I was wondering what you thought of my battle skills since you last saw me.
To tell the truth, I thought you got lucky with that mega kick.
Being pathetic's nothing to be proud of.
If you think about it, Drew and Trip are quite similar in personality, and I'd argue they were both even ruder to May and Ash respectively when they had first met them than either Gary or Paul in their first on-screen scenes with Ash. With Gary, their rivalry dated back to before they had started their journeys, and it was often a competition on who was the more competent one, with Gary often coming off as more competent than Ash, even though he was very egotistical like Drew too. And with Paul, he disliked Ash for most of Diamond and Pearl because Ash was strongly against his methods of only going for the strongest Pokemon and discarding the ones he deemed weak, hence releasing Chimchar and Ash taking Chimchar in. Drew and Trip, it was very much even more of an ego thing. Drew saw May practicing with her Beautifly, the frisbee they were using accidentally flew to him, he catches it and remarks,
Please don't tell me that you're planning on entering the Pokemon contest with a cheesy act like that.
And Trip hears Ash is from Kanto and says,
From Pallet Town? Kanto region? See, I was just thinking that a guy like you came from the boonies.
You know, that was really rude.
They both really got on May and Ash's nerves respectively, and took pleasure in annoying them a lot of the time. The main difference between the two is that Drew had much better and more satisfying writing, hence why May's rivalry with him was engaging all throughout, and had an epic battle in the top 8 of the Kanto Grand Festival that paid off when she finally beat him. I don't hate Trip as a rival, as I felt he had the potential to be a great one, but from him coming off as stronger than Ash despite him being a new trainer at the beginning of the series, just to chase after the success of Ash's rivalry with Paul, to only getting a one-on-one battle in the first round of the Unova League, he came off as wasted potential. This is probably why I will also show parallels between May and Drew's relationship and Ash's respective relationships with Gary and Paul, since I've basically said Drew's Trip done right. Like with Gary and Paul, Drew was on a relatively similar level of experience as May, albeit more confident and very egotistical, as opposed to her, but due to him starting his journey a little bit earlier than her, and having already competed in a contest or two before her, it made a lot more sense that Drew would often beat May, including the Hoenn Grand Festival, and in other contests they'd battle in. And throughout the series, May is saying that she can't let Drew beat her again, while many may take this as someone trying to impress a guy she has feelings for. I interpret it the same way I interpret every time Ash saying he's going to show Gary and Paul how strong he is, i.e., May wants to prove Drew wrong about her and that she's stronger than he thinks.
I can't let Drew keep beating me.
Gary, I'll show you! Guess what? I'm gonna beat him so bad, he'll never forget it!
Huh?
See, I'd love to be in the contest with you, but mark my words, this time I'm gonna beat you, get it?
Not so fast! There's no way I'm losing to you, Gary! Look, Paul, the next time we battle, I'm not gonna lose, you know!
Even times when Drew would have seen May win contests, he'd still say stuff like, "You just got lucky," like how Paul still would be mean to Ash even after Ash had won his 7th gym badge before he did. The same for Gary, despite Ash ranking higher in the Indigo League than him.
Of course, if you had been competing against me in the first round, things might have ended up a whole lot different.
Just because you got lucky at the Indigo Plateau doesn't mean a hill of beans.
Check it out! I just got my 7th badge! One more and I'm in the Sinnoh League! How many do you have?
That's none of your business.
It was when May would make her comeback at the Kanto one and defeat him, proving to him that she was not as incompetent as he thought and is actually a good coordinator. Hence, after his defeat by her at the Kanto Grand Festival, May finally gained Drew's proper respect, becoming friendly rivals, just like how after Ash had finally gained both Gary's and Paul's proper respect after defeating them at the Johto and Sinnoh Leagues, respectively.
Those were really nice combinations.
Hey, thanks!
But you won, and that's all that really counts. Here, take it. It belongs to you. You earned it. Really, I mean it.
Thanks.
Infernape's gotten a lot stronger.
Yeah, sure has, Paul. Good luck, Paul.
Yeah. Thanks, you too.
Now, there were a couple of times of Drew laying off his rudeness towards May, and that's whenever this guy entered the picture.
Oh, don't get yourself all worked up or you could evolve into an octillery!
I said Drew was a jerk and, many times, a bully to May, but Harley is straight up evil. He's a manipulator and essentially likes to cheat in order to get May to lose, even humiliating May in a way I can't think of any other rival that either Ash or any of his other friends have would. Not even creepy Conway, Georgia, or Ursula. I bet even the Joker would be shocked by how evil Harley is.
Wow! And I thought I was an evil psychopath!
Harley is essentially to Drew what Carnage is to Venom, a dark mirror of Drew who treats May in a very similar way to how Drew treats her. but would go to the extremes that Drew wouldn't.
That'll teach you to mess with me.
I knew it!
Ah!
You're no friend of May's.
I could say you asked for this, Webman. Stop! Spider-Man is ours.
And I believe that's why you have moments like Drew telling Harley off for trying to manipulate May in the Hoenn Grand Festival, or assisting Ash, Brock, and Max in stopping him from trying to ruin May's final chance to enter the Kanto Grand Festival, because Drew was completely against Harley's methods and believed they were wrong, rightfully so. He knew what Harley was doing wasn't right, and that he was cheating, and that even May, who he liked taking pleasure in teasing and verbally abusing himself, didn't deserve to lose like that because Drew's not a cheat like Harley. It's more the enemy of my enemy is my friend situation when Harley's involved, as I believe Drew doesn't like him either.
The enemy of my enemy is my bro.
A common enemy unites even the oldest of foes.
Gary was even the same at the Johto League, when Team Rocket tricked Ash in almost being late for the opening ceremony of the league's main event to try and steal Pikachu again. Gary rescued Ash and teamed up with him to stop Team Rocket. I feel the only way May would ever go out with Drew is if he and Harley were the last guys on the planet.
This is the one? Seriously? Your choices were him or a tree.
There are probably people that would still insist that May and Drew secretly like each other and would often refer to these points. I'm going to look at these points and tell you why I don't see them as proof of Drew or May having romantic feelings for each other. Number 1. May blushes whenever Drew does a romantic gesture, like giving her a flower. First, May had also blushed when Dawn had called her the Princess of Hoenn when they had first met during the Wallace Cup in Diamond and Pearl.
I finally get to meet you after all this time! They call you the Princess of Hoenn, right? Stop! You're making me blush!
Second, while I can't really say for sure, as I'm a guy, not a girl, but I feel any girl would get flattered or even blush if a guy, no matter how annoying that guy is, unless they're Harley or Conway, did a romantic gesture towards her. Take Serena, for example. Regardless of my personal opinion on Amore shipping, it is true that Serena does, in fact, have pretty obvious romantic feelings for Ash, at least throughout the XY anime. However, she does, as a matter of fact, get flattered and would even blush whenever other guys would compliment her or do some romantic gesture. Just look at these scenes of Tierno and Trevor complimenting her.
Serena! Ah! Your hair's different. Your clothes, too. Wow, you looked great before, but now you look really great.
Thanks a lot, Tierno. Tierno's right. You do look great.
I do? How nice, thanks!
See? Serena was pretty flattered by their compliments when they go all Brock on her. But that doesn't mean she has romantic feelings for either of them. Speaking of Brock, there was one time he had actually managed to flatter an Officer Jenny, and we all know how Brock has such rotten luck when it comes to women.
I see your eyelashes are 1/10 of an inch longer than any other Jenny in the country.
They are? They are!
And in real life, this happens too. Back at Power Morphicon 2014, Chris Cantadaforce, aka one of the greatest Power Ranger YouTubers, really complimented Christina Masterson, aka the Megaforce Pink Ranger, causing her to be flattered.
Although 13 hours from the Philippines to say that you're my favorite Pink Ranger.
Wow. Aw, thank you so much.
And I'm not sure.
I hope you get my point. And the whole flowers thing? May's Bulbasaur had also given her a flower.
Is that for me? Bulbasaur! Oh, well thank you!
Besides, considering Drew's ace is a Roselia, which was revealed to have evolved into Roserade in Diamond and Pearl, he might have a thing for flowers like how Trip has a thing for taking photos. Number 2. People like Harley, Caroline, Brienne, and Soledad think May and Drew like each other. Let's look at these 4 situations individually. Starting with Harley, wouldn't trust his word for it. Like I said, he's evil, and was most likely trying to manipulate and confuse May, as he likes doing a lot. He likes messing with her and trying to make her miserable. Maybe he was also trying to manipulate Drew too. As for Caroline, I like her. May and her family have a great family bond, and I think it was really sweet of her to watch May's first ever grand festival in person. But I wouldn't necessarily take her word for it either. I feel any parent would tease their kid about a guy or girl they see with them, even if they're wrong. Going back to XY, when the gang had returned to Lumio City, they met Clement and Bonnie's dad, who, upon seeing Serena, assumes is Clement's new girlfriend, and teases him about it.
Oh, so Clement's finally found himself a beautiful girlfriend. Gotta keep an eye on you, huh?
Yes, there was that running gag of Bonnie constantly trying to find Clement a new wife throughout the anime, but I hope you understand my point about parents teasing their kids about love. Then there's Brienne, who accused May of having a thing for Drew. But you need to keep in mind that Brienne herself had a crush on Drew and was probably paranoid about losing him to another girl, and jumped to conclusions, especially since May knew Drew for longer than her. And if Power Rangers has taught me anything, is that anyone could be paranoid if they saw the person they like with another person.
I know you've been doing this longer than me, but trust me, I'm not trying to steal your thunder. No, you're just trying to steal my best friend. That is ridiculous.
Enough already. He's obviously a friend. Wow. I feel so bad for him.
I still don't trust him. And I don't like the way he looks at you.
Besides, that wasn't even the first time another girl accused May of flirting with a guy that other girl likes. The Pacific Log Pokemon contest, anybody?
Oh, it's love at first sight? First sight? Sure, Josh was a very nice guy and
I feel the only one that may carry some proper weight to this is Soledad. And even then, I kind of view her as being to Drew what Professor Oak is to Gary and what Reggie is to Paul. Essentially a peacekeeper in May and Drew's rivalry, who'd reveal a side of Drew he had never shown before, like Reggie had done with Paul during Paul's full-on battle with Brandon, even though she was a late addition to prevent May from winning the Kanto Grand Festival. When I think of Soledad's remark of Drew liking May, I think Professor Oak's remark at the Johto League about Ash being more important to Gary than Gary would admit.
See, I think since he's been watching you grow stronger in your performances, he's gotten feelings for you.
He may not admit it, but I think that Gary considers Ash his most important friend of all.
Number 3. May had followed Drew to Johto. May didn't go to Johto because Drew was going there. She went there to compete in contests there and to form her own unique battle style, since Soledad had seen right through her Ash-inspired one, which allowed Soledad to defeat her in the semi-finals of the Kanto Grand Festival. Besides, she hadn't explored the Johto region before, so it kind of made sense she'd want to travel through there next, especially since she loves traveling. Adding to this, Drew had said he was heading to Johto because he believed Soledad was heading there, which turned out to be the case. People could probably look at that episode we last see Drew and Harley in Battle Frontier as a hint, since Drew was actually being friendly with May, who was still down after her loss to Soledad. But in that same episode, Ash was also feeling down following his recent loss to Brandon, and got many good luck presents from his Pokemon at Professor Oak's lab and from Misty. He even got a postcard from Gary, his biggest rival up to that point, also giving him words of encouragement to not give up for his rematch against Brandon. In the same episode, both of May and Ash's respective major rivals had encouraged them when they felt down. Not only that, but in the final episode of the Advanced Generation series, where May had announced she was going to Johto to compete in contests there, with Brock pointing out Drew, Soledad and Harley would be there. On his way back to Pallet Town, Ash is reunited with Gary, who was visiting his grandfather with a new Electivire. After a battle with it, and losing, Ash learns that even though he had won the Battle Frontier, he still had a lot to learn. Gary announced he was heading back to Sinnoh to continue his research there, which inspires Ash to follow Gary and head to Sinnoh next, and to compete in the Sinnoh League there. So both May and Ash had decided to go to the same region their respective rivals were going in the same episode. Coincidence? You tell me. And to end this section off, I want you to think about this. When May briefly came to Sinnoh in Diamond and Pearl Season 2 to compete in the Wallace Cup, Did Drew accompany her to compete in it too? No, he didn't. He could have, since he's also a coordinator, and the World Cup allowed any coordinator competing in contests in other regions outside of Sinnoh to compete. But he didn't. He had stayed in Johto and watched it on TV with Harley and Soledad, where both of them could have also competed but didn't. I hope you understand my reasons why I don't believe May ever had romantic feelings for Drew, since people are very convinced she did. Even taking out my advanced shipping bias, from the fact that Drew was her main rival, to Drew treating her in a similar way to how Gary, Paul, and Trip treated Ash for the majority of Advanced Generation, to the fact that Harley can't be trusted, and that other girls like Serena and Officer Jenny had gotten flattered whenever a guy like Tiano or Brock does a romantic gesture, to many parents that would tease their kids about love, regardless of whether they're right or not. By the end, even with just the English dub, May and Drew, at best, were just friendly rivals. They can never be lovers. And that's where I'm going to end this video. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comments below. And if you want to continue talking Pokemon with me, join my Discord server. Link in the description below. And if you like this video, leave a like. And if you enjoy my content, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back hopefully very soon. This next time, I'm probably going to talk about my love for advanced shipping. Until then, Sodium285, out.
If the world chooses to become my enemy, I will fight like I always have.